Welcome back to Neural Intel, where we dig into the papers that are really moving the needle in AI. Today, we're getting into the weeds on something every single person trying to scale a foundation model worries about: architectural stability. We're going to break down a new paper that offers this really elegant fix to a problem that's been bugging the field for years. And as always, we're focusing on the nitty-gritty technical details and what they actually mean for developers. So if you're ready to get past the abstract, you're in the right place. And hey, to keep up with our latest stuff, check us out at neuralintel.org, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Twitter.
All right, let's dive in. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with a bottleneck that's been around for about a decade. Then we'll look at a really powerful but kind of wild solution called hyperconnections. After that, we'll get to the main event, mHC, and see how it manages to rein in all that chaos. We'll wrap up by looking at the results and what this could mean for the future. It's a pretty cool story about power, instability, and some slick math that brings it all together.
Okay, so before we can really appreciate this new breakthrough, we have to talk about the idea it's built on. For almost 10 years now, one super simple but powerful concept has been the absolute bedrock of deep learning, and that's the residual connection. It's the reason we can build these skyscraper-sized models. But, as we're about to see, that simple design also hides a major limitation. You can think of training a really deep network like that game of telephone. With every single layer, the original message, that's the gradient, it gets a little warped. By the time it gets to the very first layers, it's basically just static. Residual connections, they're like a crystal clear, dedicated line that sends that original message straight to every single player. It makes sure the signal stays strong from beginning to end. It sounds like a simple hack, but honestly, without it, the whole deep learning revolution might not have happened. And here it is. This is the magic in its purest form. By just adding the input X back to the output, you're giving the network a safety net. If a layer isn't actually helping, the network can just learn to, well, ignore it and let the original signal pass right through. It's a brilliant piece of design that guarantees a baseline of stability. But as models got more and more complex, a question started to pop up. What if this safety net is also a cage? What if this single-lane highway, which was designed for safety, is now the biggest traffic jam in the whole network? So, to break that bottleneck, you obviously need a bigger road. And that's where hyperconnections, or HCs, come in. It's a pretty radical redesign that takes that single-lane highway of the residual connection and blows it up into a multi-lane superhighway. So, instead of one direct path, HMC creates a bunch of parallel streams of information, and they all interact with each other. Now, this is a real game changer. It means you can boost the model's ability to learn complex features without just throwing more compute at it. It really is like adding more lanes to that highway. You get a much richer, more complex flow of traffic. But as we're about to find out, with all that power comes a whole lot of instability. And at first, man, everything looked amazing. The data showed that this new learnable matrix HRS was the secret sauce, really driving some serious performance gains. It looked like HC was the future. But hiding just under the surface of these great numbers was a ticking time bomb, a fundamental flaw that was about to threaten the entire model. And this right here is the heart of the problem. See, in its hunt for more power, HCRU basically made a deal with the devil. It took the one thing that made residual connections so reliable, that do-no-harm identity mapping, and it just tossed it out. By making the connections totally unconstrained, it gave the model the freedom to learn, sure, but it also gave it the freedom to completely self-destruct. And this isn't just theory, okay? This is what it looks like in the real world. On the right, that's the gradient norm of the HC model during a 27 billion parameter training run. For any developer, this is an absolute nightmare. Those huge spikes are lost explosions. They're moments where the model's internal state just goes haywire and it has a catastrophic failure. It's like trying to drive a Formula One car with no steering wheel. You've got all the power in the world, but zero control. So how in the world do you tame that chaos without giving up all the power? Well, that brings us to the hero of our story: Manifold-Constrained Hyper-Connections, or mHC. I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea is actually beautiful. Keep the superhighway, just add some guardrails. The key insight of mHC is both simple and really, really clever. Instead of letting the connection matrices just run wild, it forces them to live in a safe space, a mathematically defined zone where stability is basically guaranteed. So think of it this way: the original mHC model could go anywhere it wanted, including right off a cliff. mHC builds guardrails that keep the car on the road, no matter how fast you're going. So what are these guardrails made of? The answer comes from this really cool piece of math, the doubly stochastic matrix. It sounds super complicated, but the idea is pretty intuitive. Imagine you're mixing a cocktail. A doubly stochastic matrix just ensures that you can only mix the ingredients you already have. You can't magically create more liquid out of thin air. In the same way, it forces the HRS matrix to just mix the input signals, but never ever amplify them. It conserves the energy of the signal, which prevents those explosions we saw earlier.
Neural signal check. All right, for any developer listening, this is the key technical takeaway. mHC isn't just another clever trick like gradient clipping, which is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on the problem after the fact. No, this is a fundamental architectural solution. It's like redesigning the engine so it's inherently stable from the start. That guarantee of stability is baked right into the DNA of the model. It's a proactive, preventative measure, not some reactive fix. And here's the visual proof. It's so clear. On the left, you've got that wild, untamed energy of the HMC matrix. It's like a Jackson Pollock painting of just erratic values, a total storm. Then on the right, you've got the mHC matrix after it's been projected onto that stable manifold. It's calm, it's ordered, it's stable. You can see the diagonal is really dominant, which shows the signal's core identity is being preserved, while all the off-diagonal stuff allows for that rich but controlled mixing of information. Okay, so the theory is elegant, the math is beautiful, but does it actually work? It's time to put mHC to the test. Let's see what happens when the rubber really meets the road in these large-scale experiments. And here it is, folks. This is the smoking gun. After just 60 layers, the signal in the unconstrained HSC model has amplified itself by a factor of 3,000. That's not a signal. That's a nuclear explosion inside your model. Now, look at mHC. The signal game is barely 1.6x. It's like a gentle hum compared to the roaring inferno of HSC. I mean, this isn't just an improvement. It's a totally different reality. The chaos has been completely tamed. But look, stability is great, but it's just a means to an end, right? The real question is, does it actually make the model smarter? And the answer is a huge yes. Across a whole range of really tough benchmarks, mHC doesn't just beat the baseline. It absolutely crushes the unstable HC model. And check out where the biggest gains are, in reasoning tasks like BBH and drop. This strongly suggests that a stable, controlled flow of information is absolutely critical for the kind of complex, multi-step thinking we're trying to get from these models. Neural signal check. So, for developers, here's the bottom line. You can have the most brilliant architecture in the world, but if your foundation is shaky, your whole skyscraper is going to collapse. Architectural stability isn't a feature, it's the bedrock. It's what lets you scale your models with confidence, knowing that your training runs will be reliable, your results will be predictable, and your final model will actually be as powerful as you designed it to be. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, what's the catch? All this stability, all this performance, it's got to come with a massive computational cost, right? Nope. And honestly, this might be the most impressive part of the whole paper. Thanks to some really smart low-level engineering, we're talking kernel fusion, selective recomputing, the overhead for mHSC is just 6.7%. It's an incredible testament to the fact that in AI, even the most elegant ideas are nothing without the tough engineering to make them practical. So what does all of this mean for the future of AI? Is mHC just another small step forward, or does it signal a really fundamental shift in how we should be thinking about building the next generation of foundation models? Okay, so to wrap up the story, we started with a powerful but really dangerous idea, hyperconnections. We saw how its unchecked power led to total chaos. Then we saw how the elegant math of manifold constraints in the form of mHC tamed that chaos and created a system that's both powerful and stable. It's just a beautiful example of how the right mathematical insight can turn a reckless idea into a revolutionary one. And this, for me, is the most exciting part of this whole paper. It suggests that maybe we've been looking for breakthroughs in the wrong place. Maybe the next big leap in AI won't come from a new kind of attention or a fancier MLP block. Maybe it'll come from a deeper understanding of the spaces between the blocks, the actual geometry of the connections themselves. mHC uses doubly stochastic matrices, okay? But what about orthogonal matrices? What about other more exotic mathematical structures? This paper doesn't just give us a new tool. It gives us a whole new toolbox. And the question it leaves us with is a really thrilling one. What are we going to build with it? And that's a question I can't wait to see answered.